Hello everyone and welcome back to another session of Dark Souls Remastered PvP and another weapon showcase. Today we are taking a look at the Golem Axe, which is a boss weapon that you get from ascending a plus 10 Axe class weapon and using the Core of an Iron Golem with the Giant Blacksmith. Now this weapon, for all that you have to invest into it, is a little bit lackluster. It's a little bit disappointing in a way. That said, I really enjoy using this weapon. There are a few instances where it can really shine. Even if those instances are few and far between, it still is a fun weapon to use. So let's get started with the basics. This weapon requires 36 strength and 8 dexterity in order to wield, and because it's a boss weapon, it is already technically at an unupgraded level equal to a plus 10 weapon. So at base level for this weapon, its physical base damage is 170. It has a C scaling in strength and an E in dexterity, and at plus 5, its physical base damage is 255, and its scalings remain unchanged. So it is what it is. Now this weapon has a couple of pros, and I'm going to start off with those this time around because there's not terribly many of them, and in a way some of those pros are double-edged swords, for lack of a better way of saying it. Bit of an odd way to describe pros on an axe, but it is what it is. Let's move on from there. Now, with this weapon, the biggest pro is going to be its one-handed R2. That Wind Blast is extremely useful. It can hit opponents from a decent range, and that's always helpful. It does use 30 durability per use, so you have 600 durability total. It's just something that you need to be mindful of and watch, so be careful with that. You don't want to accidentally break your weapon mid-fight. With that Wind Blast, there are a few different things that can make it very beneficial. First and foremost, the Wind Blast itself and the axe actually both have hitboxes. So if you're point blank with your opponent, you go for that R2, and for whatever reason, if they don't parry or block, you will actually hit with the Wind Blast and the axe, dealing double damage. And that's always a good thing, because the damage on this weapon, well, we'll get into that. Aside from that, though, the Wind Blast has another benefit, which you'll actually see in this fight. You can actually use it as a bait. Similar to how I use my black firebombs to bait people to roll in and do running attacks or rolling attacks, you can do the same with the Wind Blast. So, shortly in the fight, you'll see me go for the Wind Blast when my opponent is at range. That causes them to roll in towards me and do a rolling attack, which leads to an easy parry. So that's a good little strategy you can use with this weapon. Tons of people fall for it. People who know better still fall for it. So it is what it is. It's something good to keep in mind. Just a nice little tool to tuck in your back pocket for when you need it. So that's good. Aside from that, this axe has decent range. I feel like it's a slightly longer range than some of the other axe class weapons. A little longer than that of the battle axe, for example, but not quite as long as the gargoyle tail axe or the butcher knife, clearly. So that's decent. It is what it is. The downside is, with this weapon and with some of the other axe class weapons, with the wide swings that they have, there's a whiff animation on them if you miss, and if your opponent is farther off to your left, a little left of center, there's a very high likelihood that your swing will connect, but the whiff animation will still play through, which is not a good situation for you to be in. So that's a just generic downside to the axe class weapons. It can happen with pretty much all of them, even the hand axe. It has nothing to do with the weapon's length, it just has to do with how the moveset is and how the hit detection works. So that's a downside to the weapon, clearly. Aside from that, damage. Damage on this thing is not great for the investment, and for the investment I mean for the weight investment. This thing weighs 16 units and has an identical attack rating, to me at least, as the battle axe, which only weighs 4. So needless to say, that's not overly great. On top of that though, this weapon's other major con is the R2 itself. So with its one-handed or two-handed R2, you're asking to either be parried or backstabbed. It is what it is. That said, that's all I've got, so I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.